Chronic, left, right, Jack come, left, right, hey, ooh yeah, ah boy. Welcome, why, hey, chronic, left, right, Jack come, left, right, hey, ooh yeah, ah boy.
That's right. That's right. Welcome back to the Jehovah Chronicles. It's your hostess with the mostest burning like toast. It's your boy Cosmonian. Checking back in from the Ethereum heavens down here in Ooze. Came to drop a little game real quick. Now, we've been on this Antiquety Unveiled, and it's been giving us some deep revelation on the nature and source and heathen background of the Christian belief system. For those who aren't up on it, this is the book Antiquety and Unveiled, channeled to begin with in 1880 to 1881. This is revelations from certain historical people who have come back into the spirit world and are now dropping game about what's really going on. Let me see if I can blow it up just a little bit more for y'all. See how that look. Let me get that up out of there. Yeah, that looked much better, man. Peace to all the righteous gods, Nirvanian goddesses. As always, you know what I'm here to do. I come to balance all balances and check all checks, because you know what happens next when you see that butterfly vortex. Every king need his crown, right? You dig what I'm saying? So this one gonna be a little short, little choppy session. We're gonna get into two great historical emperors. One, the great Vespasian, Roman emperor, and we're gonna get into Herod Agrippa, the great Herodian. You know what I mean? And they're gonna come back in their spirit forms and give us the information that they got to give. And we're gonna look into the dynasties and what time all these things are going on historically. You dig what I'm talking about? So without further ado, let's get right into ooze real quick. Shout out to the homie, the Cali Connect, Yara. I had this PDF already, but I had one with sections that were kind of like blocked out in it. You know what I mean? And so he sent me the PDF without any of the sections taken out. Big shout out to the homie. You dig what I'm talking about? Without shout out to the homeboy Dreadful Cosmo for the hookup. You dig what I'm talking about? Well, let's get right into it real quick. Let's look. It is the devil's work have nothing to do with it. We answer them and say, it has been the devil's work that these most important truths have been so long concealed. It will yet prove that the proscribed Potamon, who was the guy in the one above us that I passed up. We'll probably get to that another time, but we wanted to get to some of these highlights in the book. And Vespasian is definitely a highlight and a person that can be proved historically. It will yet prove that the proscribed Potamon and his followers have been the saviors of their fellow men and not the cowed deceivers of their race, who have stolen the garments of sanctity the more effectually to accomplish the enslavement of the people. Let's get into Vespasian. This is the 10th emperor, Vespasian, right? And Vespasian is from the Flavian dynasty. This was a line of Roman rulers. You dig what I'm talking about? And existed from 69 AD to 96 AD with Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian being the first three, and well, really the only three Flavian monarchs. You see what I'm saying? From 69. So Vespasian, who we about to get into, takes over in 69. Now, you're going to get into a story and hear a lot about Nero. I want y'all to understand that Nero was the preceding Roman emperor before Vespasian. So at the age of 16 in 54 AD, in 54 AD, at the age of 16, Nero takes rule of the Roman throne, right? In 54, Nero dies at 30, right? 30 years old, he died, and or was killed in 14 years. So that would be 14 years after his coronation in 54. That leads us to 68 AD. Look, he dies. Look what happens right the next year. The Flavian dynasty, right? So we know where we at in time. You know what I mean? Let's get to it. Vespasian, the 10th Roman emperor. I greet you, sir. I might as well introduce myself before I proceed to give any communication. I am sent here by Apollonius of Tyana, and my name was Vespasian. I commanded the forces at the taking of Jerusalem. Wrote about by who? Josephus. I was afterward an emperor. Amongst the Jews at the time, there was no account of such a person as Jesus of Nazareth. Look at that. Let me see. Hold on one second. Let me get this. So y'all can get this off the screen real quick. Shout out for everybody to come through. Peace to all the righteous gods and Nirvanian goddesses. Yahweh, Keon, Lawrence Burton, Elijah, Seth, Dreadful, Common, Share Bear in the house. You dig what I'm talking about? That's what it do, man. Thank y'all for coming through. It's just going to be a real quick one. We're going to get into it, chop up some information about these boys, man, and see what we can prove historically. You dig what I'm saying? Let's get right back into it. Let me see. Should I throw just a little bit of ride music on in the background? Just a little something, you know what I mean? Just a little something. Let me see what I can do. All right. Let me see. Oh, let me see. Let's go right there. Let's get right back into it, man. Hope everybody can hear it, man. Amongst the Jews at that time, right? During the time of Vespasian, pretty much a 10-year run, 69 AD to 79 AD. Amongst the, and mind you, Jesus would have been dead. Amongst the Jews at that time, there was no such account of such a person as Jesus of Nazareth. But there were several Jesuses commanding the mutineers. Yet neither Greek, Roman, nor Jew knew aught of what is now known as the Christian Savior. So they're saying they know nothing about no Christian Savior. He said there was there Apollonius, who was what you would certainly term at the present day a great medium, by laying his hands upon a roll upon which nothing whatever was written, communications would come from the spirits of our ancestors. Look at this. Look at this. Vespasian admitting to the same type of communication that JBN admits to. Automatic writing. The same type of automatic writing that is shown in the book of Daniel to Balthasar. You see what I'm saying? And in some upcoming shows on in this book, because we got to get one. We're gonna have some major drop on Zoroaster and the presumed Zarathustra. You dig what I'm talking about? We're gonna bring out some light on him and on the book of Daniel. You dig what I'm talking about? We didn't already brought out some light on the book of Revelations, which Apollonius Atayana says he wrote himself on the island of Patmos, where the so-called Saint John the Revelator was. He was the actual person who actually gave the revelation. Right? But Vespasian, a Roman emperor who don't believe in none of this stuff, is telling you that during his day, he's seen Apollonius Atayana, a medium, take a blank roll, a blank scroll, and do his little hoodoo on it, and the pen would write by itself. That's automatic writing. Same way that Creator says that Owaspy came about. So, you know what I mean? Showing that oneness, that harmony, that symmetry in the way of the Creator. Yeah. Okay, hold on. Let me get my light. Like my little splipper ting. You know what I mean? I thought that was interesting, showing that continuity in the way of the Creator. You dig what I'm talking about? In that way, this man was of immense benefit to me in the reduction of Jerusalem. Look at that. Look at that. But remember, Apollonius says he was in the court of Vespasian. He was taken to trial by the Felix, the so-called, like Paul was of the Bible, that Felix was Nero. Felix is another term for emperor, king, in the Roman and Greek. You dig what I'm talking about? That's just another term. And we got to understand that the Flavians are still is one group of emperors, but there are preceding emperors who come before them. We're gonna get into them too, and then there's ones who precede them, and then there's ones who precede them. We gonna get into all that because we got to clear up the timeline and just show what they saying, man. But we gonna get into the players in the game, right? He was deified. He said in that way, right? In this way of the writing of the automatic writing, this man was immense benefit to him, Vespasian, in the reduction of Jerusalem, right? 70 BC. 70 AD. We find Jerusalem being smashed by Vespasian. Vespasian is admitting to that Apollonius of Tyana was there, and not only was he there, he was a oracle for Vespasian himself, just like Apollonius of Tyana says. It's crazy. It says he was deified after his death. Speaking of Apollonius, his features and hair resembled very much the statues of the god Jupiter. Let's get a look at the god Jupiter. You dig what I'm talking about? Let's get a look at the god Jupiter. This is Jupiter. Let's try to get a, you know what I mean? They got him a stone. This is how they got him up here. We know during this time, Jupiter was Baal. Baal is a black man. So, you know what I mean? We know they talking about an older and more ancient Jupiter. Let's look here. They got his hair a brownish, reddish, Turkish. Remember that Apollonius is really from Tyana, which is in Cappadocia, or modern day Turkey, northern Turkey too. So, you know what I mean? Just to keep it in mind, just to give us a visual, you know what I mean? Let's go back and look at it real quick. Let's go back, take a couple looks at Jupiter. So was Apollonius. Let's get a look at what they say look like. Say Apollonius favored the god Jupiter. This is the recalling of Vespasian. He was looked upon in our camp as the reincarnation of the god Apollo. By reincarnation, I do not mean I do not mean it in the sense in which you understand it today, but that he was a god in the flesh. The real truth of the whole affair was that this man was a medium, and all his teachings were identical with those in the God book of the Christians. He rebuked fevers and diseases, and they left those afflicted with them. Our idea of disease was that they were the result of demonology. That is, that they were produced by spirits that were only elementary. But this idea was incorrect, for since I became a spirit, right? This is Vespasian talking now. This is the emperor talking. He's saying they thought that disease came from low elementary dark, or what we would call Druidian spirits. He's like, but this idea was incorrect, for since I became a spirit, I have failed to find such elementary spirits. But I have found diseased spirits who are attracted to mortals by their diseases, and they make sick and help to kill those they obtain control of. Whole different look on disease, huh? Another thing I cannot. So that also means that we gotta rethink what they call mental diseases or so-called mental health, because you dig what I'm talking about. If it is that it is by these disease spirits that they are made sick, you dig what I'm talking about. Physically, it must work the same mentally also. Another thing I cannot understand is that, now mind you, the way he's talking, you got to understand 69 to 79 when he was the emperor, wasn't no Christians, wasn't none. And the people that they are assuming to be Christians of that first era were in fact Essenes and Hebrews. Is being applied to them, you know what I mean? Because those were the people there at the time. There were no Christians. Even Jebus wasn't no Christian. You know what I mean? So, you know, we got to keep that in mind. He said, another thing I cannot understand is that with all my endeavors to get possession of the old books of the Jews, I did not succeed in getting one, for the Jews destroyed them rather than they should be desecrated by heathens. Now, how Christians can claim that they have copies of the ancient Hebrew prophets when I could not obtain one, I cannot understand. This is something I leave the present Christians and Jews to explain, because I searched their dead, their houses, their captives, but could obtain nothing of them except the acknowledgement that the Jews had such books, and none of them were allowed to fall into Roman hands. My main purpose in giving Josephus his life was to get through him those books, but I failed even in that case. What? What does he mean? My main purpose in giving Josephus his life. Did he create Josephus? Hold on. Because if I'm not mistaken, Josephus is a spirit in this book too that comes back and speaks. But I may be thinking of something else, but we'll get into it. He's like, to get through him those books, but I failed even that case. The reason why Josephus never mentioned this Apollonius was, okay, let's get into it. Because the Jews, and especially the Pharisees, would have nothing to do with a heathen prophet or philosopher. Leading credence to that, Apollonius made the Nazarene sect. They was a little separate. Interesting. Overlapping though, man. All this doctrine is overlapping. In fact, the Jews were the lowest heathens of my time on earth. Bang drop. But let me before y'all get y'all panties in a bunch about Vespasian telling his truth, let me reveal to you that a Jew and an Israelite are not the same thing. But what does a real eye-on-eye witness say of the first century Jews? Not the Israelites, who were the Essenes. In fact, at that time, any Israelite would have not been called Jew in the first century. Every Israelite was called Essene in the first century. To proving the fact that a Jew and an Israelite are something different. What does Vespasian say about the Jews? In fact, the Jews were the lowest heathens of my time on earth. They worship everything they felt like worshiping. They had no special code or system of laws. Uh-oh. The man that succeeded in gaining the most followers governed everything for the time. And that was the reason we Romans were so severe with them. If they caught a Roman soldier by himself, they would cut his throat with as little hesitation as they would kill a dog. You will receive further particulars from Felix, procurator of Judea. He says he wants to give his solemn spirit testimony that he never heard of one Saint Paul. Uh-oh. Who it is said pleaded his cause before him. He said he never even heard of him. I thank you for giving me this hearing. Right now, this is the people going on. You dig what I'm saying? I don't know if that's too loud. Is that too loud? Is that too loud, family? You know what I mean? All right, let's you know. Let me turn it down a little bit. Let's get to it. We refer to the penny encyclopedia for account of Vespasian. Such was the emperor who testifies as a spirit that Apollonius of Tyana was with him at the siege of Jerusalem, and acted as his medium for communication with the spirits of his ancestors. Same thing JBN was doing. Same thing all mediums do. As shown in our remarks upon Apollonius, both Vespasian and Titus, who was another one, we can go back, we'll go to Titus, admitted in letters to Apollonius that they were under the greatest obligation to him for services rendered to them as an oracle or medium. It's interesting. The testimony of this spirit that there was nothing known at Jerusalem at the time of its capture by the Romans of any such person as the Christian Savior is most important as cumulative evidence that no such person lived at the time claimed as the period of the alleged earthly teachings. And I want y'all to picture this dichotomy. The person that the Christian doctrine is actually purporting to be Jesus, Apollonius, is on the outside of Jerusalem, giving the Romans advice on how to conquer it. So your own so-called Jesus tearing down your own so-called city. Now you seeing why Josephus ain't right about him. This is a problem. You see why the Christian fathers didn't want to speak of him, or every time Apollonius was mentioned in any text, because remember, these so-called first century Christians are all Hebrews. They would have all knew Apollonius. It was only the Jews that didn't like him. But all the Essenes would have known him and loved him. He'd have been world renowned like he was. This is a historical character who was rubbing shoulders with the emperors, them guys, them boys of that time. You dig what I'm talking about? The Romans ruled everything. He right next to the number one man, and they saying they owe him for all the sage advice he was giving them. So let's not look past Apollonius or look past the reasons as why the Christian scholars would have had to destroy his doctrine. But they missed Philostratus, didn't they? Look how Jaja work. He say that Apollonius was looked upon in the Roman camp as the reincarnation of God Apollo, or as an incarnated God. And the fact that he was a medium whose teachings were identical with the Christian scriptures affords the strongest evidence that Apollonius was the real origin of the Christian Savior. His rebuking fevers and diseases and driving them from the sick was but the healing process so successfully practiced today by healing mediums, by the laying on of hands. And if you know, you know. The suggestion or statement that spirits are sometimes diseased and that they are attracted to mortals, imparting to them disease and sometimes causing death, is a startling fact that seems to be largely borne out by observed events. Especially is this caused with epilepsy. As we have had much reason to know. Who knows how the book of the Jewish scriptures came into the hands of the Christian priesthood? Nothing of them was known to the most learned of the Greeks and the Romans as late as the time of Vespasian. So from as late as 69 AD to 79 AD, or from as late as 79 AD on back through the rest of the first century to 0 AD, you dig what I'm talking about? He said nothing of them was known to the most learned of the Greeks who ruled the world. The Greeks and the Romans ruled the world as late as the time of Vespasian. Let that sink in. The whole so-called founding of the beginning of the lifetime of Jesus, nobody seen it, never heard of it, knew nothing about it. It wasn't mentioned. It wasn't there. So it comes to even lend more credence to the story of the Nicene Council, that the life of the Christian Savior, Jesus, was amalgamated from not only Apollonius or Tyana, but a myriad of multiple prophets that had come before, prophets and so-called mediums before his time. Said nothing of the early Christians, period. Jeebus, none of them. None of them. Nothing of them was known to the most learned of the Greeks and Romans as late as the time of Vespasian, as Apollonius had much to do with saving the life of Josephus. There is little doubt from what Vespasian says, for it was the work of Apollonius's whole life to master the religions and mysteries of every people then known to civilization. He undoubtedly used all his influence with Vespasian to save Josephus in the hope that he would learn the secrets of the Jewish religion through him. It's interesting. Vespasian states that he spared Josephus on that account. Oh, that's what he's talking about. He brought him his life. Okay. Because they was about to give Josephus that head chop. Huh? They was about to put his innards on an altar and sacrifice that boy. His whole head was gonna be gone. Get on the rack. Shoot yourself, Josephus. I don't want to shoot myself. Shoot yourself, Josephus. They was gonna do that boy bad. Apollonius say he saved him. Vespasian say he saved him on the account of Apollonius. Vespasian states that he spared Josephus on that count. This whole communication of Vespasian is singularly confirmatory of the communication of Apollonius. Thus, facts accumulate, all pointing to one result, that there is nothing original in connection with the Christian religion. Dang. Once again, this is the Flavian dynasty from 69 AD to 96 AD, from the time of Vespasian to Titus and Domitian. You know what I mean? Let's go to the great Herod Agrippa, King of Judea. Right? Let's go look at Herod in the Herodian dynasty. Right? The Herodian dynasty, let's light it up real quick. Let's light this up. The Herodian dynasty was a royal dynasty of Idumean. And they let it out in Edomite descent. Ruling the Herodian kingdom of Judea and later the Herodian tetrarchy as a vassal state of the Roman Empire. And as a vassal state, they was usually tying in blood to, you know what I mean, marrying daughter, the son, the daughter, mixing up the royal family bloods. You dig what I'm talking about? So there'd be blood ties at the top. The Herodian dynasty began with Herod the Great, who assumed the throne of Judea with Roman support, bringing down the century-old Hasmonean. How many of y'all knew that pre the Herodian dynasty was the Hasmonean dynasty? And what about I drop this, that the Hasmonean dynasty and kingdom ruled longer than the Herodians? Watch this. We're going to get into the Hasmonean too. His kingdom lasted until his death in 4 BC. Then it was divided among his sons as a tetrarchy and lasted about 10 years. Most of those tetrarchies, including Judea proper, were incorporated in Judea province from 6 CE, though limited Herodian de facto kingship continued until Agrippa I's death in 44 CE. And nominal title of kingship continued until 92 CE. So they counting the Herodian dynasty as the Flavian, right? But also as the Julio-Claudians, who would represent from the time between the Herodians and the Flavians. You got the Julio-Claudians. And let's go to the Julio-Claudian dynasty. Right? Hold on. Let's clear up the Herodian first. So, though limited Herodian de facto kingship continued until Agrippa I's death in 44 CE, and nominal title of kingship continued until 92 CE, when the last Herodian monarch, Agrippa II, officially named Marcus Julius Agrippa, Oh, Marcus Agrippa is a Herodian? Oh. And see, they tell us he Roman. That's Marcus Agrippa II. Died, and Rome assumed full power over its de jure domain. Right? Now, after them, this is where Rome picks up at the Julio-Claudian dynasty. The Julio-Claudian dynasty comprised the first 5 Roman emperors: Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and Nero. This line of emperors ruled the Roman Empire from its formation under Augustus in 27 BC until the last of the line, Emperor Nero, committed suicide in what? 69 AD. What did we just show you happened in 69 AD? Vespasian takes over. The Julio-Claudian is a historiographical term deriving from the 2 families composing the imperial dynasty, the Julii Caesars and Claudii Nerones. Right? But we might as well get all the players, right? Because let's get the people who ruled before Herod, so we can see how these lines is just intersecting and passing power down. You dig what I'm talking about? You would make it. It would almost make it seem like that these are different people, but they not. Watch this. They all the same thing. Hasmonean, Edomite, Idumean, all the same thing. And now we about to tie the Hasmonean into it. Watch this. The Hasmonean dynasty was a ruling dynasty of Judea and surrounding regions during classical antiquity from 140 BCE to 37 BCE. What happens in 37 BCE? The Herodian dynasty and Herod the Great. Right? Now, let me also show that from 140 BC, right? This is 6 years after the birth of real Yeshua. Yeshua died this year, 110 BCE, per the timetables of prophecy. He was born 146, died 36 years later at 110. Okay. From circa 140 BCE to 37 BCE, between 140 and 116 BCE, the dynasty ruled Judea semi-autonomously in the Seleucid Empire. The Seleucids. The Seleucids was a Greek state in West Asia that consisted during the Hellenistic period from 312 BC to 63 BC, which is basically from the death of Alexander or the Ptolemaic times on down. These are the guys who would have ran Egypt and all that. The Seleucid Empire was founded by the Macedonian general Seleucus I Nicator, following the division of the Macedonian Empire, originally founded by Alexander the Greek. And roughly 110 BCE, the empire disintegrating, Judea gained further autonomy and expanded into the neighboring regions of Perea, Samaria, Idumea. Dodged the hijack, because remember, Herod was this is a biblical understanding of where Edom is. In real life, Edom is where? In Idumea, right? Idumea is where? Idumea is Turkey, right? Where Herod from, in the Hittite crew, Herodian crew, they from Turkey, in Cappadocia. Right where Tiana from, same place. Right where Troy is, same place. So let's not get tricked up by this. You dig what I'm talking about? Because this is just the biblical small understanding of really what's going on. Because really, Edom all the way in Turkey. How do we prove that? By the blood. Galilee and Iturea. Yeah. Some modern scholars regard the Hasmonean realm as an independent Israel. The Hasmonean rulers took the Greek title Basileus, king or emperor. Forces of the Roman Republic conquered the Hasmonean kingdom in 63 BC and made it into a client state. Herod the Great displaced the last reigning Hasmonean client ruler in 37 BCE. Simon Tassi established the dynasty in 141 BCE, 2 decades after his brother Judas Maccabee. The Maccabee. Shout out to the Maccabee. Shout out to my brother Malachi Maccabee, man. Y'all go on Honor, Humility, man. Sub, like, share, man. Y'all go to Cosmos Cap, sub, like, share. Y'all hit Selah Shalom TV up, sub, like, share. Y'all hit the Nazarene, Essene, Faithist up on YouTube, sub, like, share. Hit that Bronze Yogi up, sub, like, share. You dig what I'm talking about? Peace to the creative gang. Shout out to all y'all. But look who we got here. We got Malachi Maccabee. Was a Jewish priest, a Kohen, and had a son of the priest Mattathias. He led the Maccabean revolt against the Seleucid Empire. Had defeated the Seleucid army during the Maccabean revolt of 167 to 141 BC, according to 1st Maccabees, 2nd Maccabees, and the first book of the Jewish War by historian Flavius, who we just found out that got his life saved by your boy Apollonius. The Seleucid emperor Antiochus IV moved to assert strict control over the Seleucid satrapy of Coeli, Syria, and Phoenicia after a successful invasion of Ptolemaic Egypt, 170 to 168 BCE. Egypt stay getting this ass whooped. They get their ass whooped under everybody. You go into Egypt, you about to lose. Was turned back by the intervention of the Roman Republic. He sacked Jerusalem and its temples, suppressing Jewish and Samaritan religious and cultural observances. He imposed Hellenistic practices. The steady collapse of the Seleucid dynasty empire under attacks from the rising power of the Roman Republic and the Parthian Empire allowed Judea to regain some autonomy. However, in 63 BCE, the kingdom was invaded by the Roman Republic, broken up, and set up as a Roman client state. That means Luamang won. Let's get to it. Herod Agrippa II, king of Judea. I will salute you, sir, by saying, those who would Obstruct these communications, confirm the saying, fools rush in where angels dare to tread. Woo, woo. Herod came off like a king, didn't he? He said, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. The funny part is he an angel now, telling you it's people who scared to go there, huh? But fools will. I was born into the mortal life about AD 30 and departed to the spirit life about AD 85. I lived at the time of the great triumphs and renowned career of Apollonius of Tyana, a man and a medium who, if people must have a God and a savior, ought to be the leading character in that direction today. I most positive let me look what he's saying. Hold on, what he say? Let's go look. I most positively assert that under the name of Paulinius or Apollonius was brought before me before disturbing the peace of the country. But nothing could be proven against him, except that he knew more about the Jewish religion than my own people did. So that brings question right there that he didn't save, like Vespasian said. Vespasian said he saved whatchamacallit life because he thought that Apollonius wanted to learn some Jewish literature from Josephus. Apollonius said, I just say that nigga life because I'm a good nigga. This is leading, what he's saying is, this is leading really without a doubt that Josephus, regardless to Vespasian is saying it, you dig what I'm talking about? Regardless to if Apollonius himself is making the claim, we got the dude here, the man who could have squashed or put everything on blast. This is Herod. You dig what I'm talking about? Saying that already before the time of Vespasian, right? This is that first trip to where so-called Paul was supposed to be brought in front of the Roman courts, right? So, but look, this might be where we get in the trip up at. I most positively assert that under the name of Paulinus, you know how people, you know how we say shit, you know what I mean? There, thar, you know what I mean? Mean the same thing, but a little twist on the dialect because we're a little different people. But Paulinus or Pollianus or Apollonius was brought before me for disturbing the peace of the country. You dig what I'm talking about? He said, but nothing could be proven against him. So this is what could be proven against him, except that he knew more about the Jewish religion than my own people did. And this is before the time of Josephus. This is before the time of the Vespasian trials, before the conquering of Jerusalem, before they was there overthrowing Jerusalem in 70 AD. This is before this. He's saying he already knew more Jewish law than all his people knew. So that go back to lead credence to what Apollonius was saying. It was that I saved his life. Vespasian mentioned that he saved his life also. Here come Herod, the nigga who life they saved him from, saying, yeah, the reason, you know what I mean, we let him go, or the only thing that really could be proved about the dude and why we let him go was that he knew more Jewish law than the Jews. Okay. So, you know what I mean? That's leading credence to just a statement. There's 3 historical characters saying the event happened, and Josephus admitting that he was there. And then they mention Damas mentioned why he don't get mentioned. Because them niggas was in the same order of so-called Melchizedek, or the order of the sun. You dig what I'm talking about? Secret shit. You know what I mean? Pythagorean. You know what I mean? Cause and reaction type ideologies. You know what I mean? They call it alchemy sometimes, because they say it come from Pythagoras, who got it from Hermes Trismegistus. Right? In those days, the Jews gladly killed any Gentile who knew more of their religion. Dang. And who could expound it better than their learned rabbis. Damn, that's some insight. Right? So this pre-40 AD. Well, he died in 85 AD. Right? But we know this happened after he came back off the second trip, so this would have had to have been in the 50s. 50 AD to 60 AD. You dig what I'm talking about? Or the time, or the end of the Herodians. You dig what I'm talking about? Towards the end of the Herodians and during the Julio-Claudian dynasty. Right? In those days, the Jews gladly, dang, look at the Jews, man. This is what you want to be? You fighting over this? The Jews gladly killed any Gentile who knew more of their religion and who could expound it better than their learned rabbis, as I could find no harm in the man except what I have stated. He was discharged. He was brought forth me a second time. Look at this. Herod admitting that story in the Bible about so-called Paul is really about Apollonius. And he was the nigga. Oh, this is deep. This deep. This is, man. Hey, listen, man. We doing Paul bad. shout out to my brother Malachi Maccabee, man. Woo wee. Between this and all the information Malachi didn't already, Paul is done. If y'all still want to hold on Jesus, okay. All right. But we didn't work Jesus out too. You did what I'm talking about. But if you still want to hold on, I ain't gonna fight you. But don't hold on to nothing Paul say. But this becomes your dilemma. Paul wrote everything your so-called Jesus said. Uh-oh. So ain't no more Jebus. As I could find no harm in the man except what I stated, he was discharged. He was brought before me a second time. Uh-oh, Paul. About the time of the downfall of the Jewish state, which was about 67 or 68 AD, when he was again charged with disturbing the country by advancing ideas that were derogatory to the Jewish Jehovah. Ooh-wee. But again, his accusers failed to prove their point Apollonius was, in fact, a disciple and initiated member of the school of Gamaliel. Excuse me. And so well did he argue with his accusers that they failed in all their attempts to prove anything against him. That Apollonius, listen to this, that Apollonius was the Saint Paul of the present Christian religion is plainly proven by reading the various epistles attributed to him. Those epistles, listen to what Herod telling. Those epistles will show to any candid inquirer or thinker that Paul was not a Jew bag drizzle. Why? Huh? What they been telling you? What they been telling you? Not a Jew, in fact, Idumean, so-called Edomite, huh? But a Greek. Everything. Let's Herod dropping some heavy game. He dropping some heavy game. He said that Apollonius was Paul, not only Jesus. Apollonius was Paul too. He say it's plainly proven by reading the various epistles attributed to him. Those epistles will show to any candid inquirer or thinker that Paul was not a Jew. Everything therein goes to show that he must have been a person well versed in what? Greek. Facts. How do we know? Because he was from Idumea. What is Idumea? An Edomite. Where is Edom? In Turkey. We prove that today. That's common knowledge. And Herod say he are these people. Right where Apollonius is from. They were Greeks. Huh? Told you we got to get past that colorism. If Jehovah can use a donkey to talk, he can show use a white nigga. Get over it. Get over it. If you got a problem with that, that's a problem with you. That's some spiritual dark work you need to work on yourself because you got some Haitian up in you. Everything therein goes to show that he must have been a person well versed in Greek. And just such a writer and thinker as was the great Cappadocian sage Apollonius of Tyana. The so-called Paul. This makes sense how he could be a Roman and a Jew. Remember, he went before the Grecian king, the Greek king, Herod. So what he's speaking, he obviously spoke in Greek. Oh, man. This is getting crazy. This book nuts, y'all. The last time during my mortal career, or what he means is his life, that his mortal career is his job as emperor. Okay. But the last time during my mortal career that I met Apollonius was in the camp of Titus before Jerusalem around 70 AD. Where I saw such spiritual manifestations occurring through his mediumship or in his presence, as Josephus relates, as having occurred through Eleazar the Jew. Oh! Y'all remember the story of Eleazar? Eleazar was the old man who they was trying to trick into eating. He was like, man, just go and eat this meat, man. Go and break your laws, man. You old anyway. Go and break your laws and die, man. You know what I mean? You good. And Eleazar, who was this, and wait a minute, the Bible, wait a minute, wait. Hold on, let me look this up real quick. Because if Apollonius is Eleazar, or the story told about Eleazar is really about Apollonius, y'all got to remember Eleazar wasn't no hoe. This boy was a warrior, and then got up there on his own when his people got pressed. He got up on the rack on his own. Oh, hold on. Let me look this up real quick. I can't remember exactly where it is. Let me look this up. And I think it's the story of Eleazar. They got it in Maccabees too. I want to say it's in Maccabees. In the book of Maccabees. And look, this is who they say. Eleazar was a priest and one of the four sons of Aaron. He was a high priest when the Israelites began entering the promised land. His role started out relatively small. He was consecrated. Hold on. Okay. It says Eleazar was the father of Phinehas, a priest known for his zeal for the Lord. Numbers 25 tells of the Israelites worshiping the false god Baal of Peor and committing sexual sin with the Moabites. God instructed Moses to kill the Israelites who had yoked themselves to the false god. When Phinehas saw an Israelite essentially in the act of blatant sin, killed the man and the woman in the plague of the people, Israelites. Hold on. I want to show, because there's a story of Eleazar in, I want to say it's in the book of Maccabees. Sorry. I thought it was Maccabees. Right. In Maccabees. You know what I mean? You know, I'll be having to dip back into that old mind. I'll be having to crank this old brain up sometimes. You dig what I'm talking about? But I know what I'm talking about. You dig what I'm talking about? You know, you just think on it long enough, you'll bring it back up if you really know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? This is why I can just come off the head with it, because I know I read it. But let's just take a quick look at what it say real quick about Eleazar under the persecution instigated by Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes, Eleazar was forced to open his mouth and eat pork, but he spat it out and submitted to flogging. He was then privately permitted to eat meat that he could pretend was pork, but he refused and was flogged to death. That's Eleazar. You know what I mean? Right? He said, where I saw such spiritual manifestations occur from Apollonius through his mediumship or in his presence, as Josephus relates as having occurred to Eleazar the Jew. Josephus was in the camp of Titus at that time. Is Titus, hold on, Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes? Huh. Even right there. Right there with the Flavians, man. He say, or in his presence was as Josephus relates as having occurred through Eleazar the Jew. Josephus was in the camp of Titus at that time. Those manifestations were similar to the various phenomena now well known to be produced by spirits through mediums, and were such as to incite Vespasian and Titus to greater endeavors to overthrow the Jewish state. Also makes sense as to why the God wouldn't be in the Jews' favor. The Jews was the bad guys. So were they praying to Satan? Is that why Yahweh gets applied to Yahweh? And everybody think that they're the same thing? I mean, could it be? I'm just asking questions. I'm not saying that's true. Asking questions though. We gonna think around here. You know. Let's see what it say. What it say? I have further to say that there was no Jewish history or book written in my time. He died in 85 AD. There was no written book in that time. So guess what? Wasn't no Christians in that time. That could prove my people to have a history extending over 500 years before my time. Facts. The sacred writings all took their present shape in the days of when did he say he was born? In 30. Huh? He said his shit run 500 years before his time. Let's just say 530. When was that when was that to not gather by Ezra? How would he know that? I'm being for real. How would he know that? This nigga just told. Not that I don't agree with him, I do agree with him. But how do he know? What happened in 496? Hold on, let me. 496. Let me pull this chart up. He said his people been around since about 530. At least 500 years before his date is what he's saying. You dig what I'm saying? So guess what happens a few years after that? I want to show y'all chart. One of the charts I made. Where is this shit at? I wanted to bring this up, right? To just give you an idea what he said. His people, through the Macedonians, that at least take us back to time of Alexander, 360 or so. You dig what I'm talking about? And we can trace them roots on back. He's like his people been known for show up on the planet since about roughly 530-ish, right? He's saying he know because his people predated. Look, we got the compiling, right, of Ezra and Tanakh. 44 years later, it was finished in 450 BC, right here. 450 BC. Ezra compiles it, starts to compile it in 496. Look, we have the Nicene Council way down here in 326 AD. This 496. We talking about a time way up here. This is the 25th Cosmos, 1848. Look at the kingdom of Israel. But look where he talking about. He's saying his people predate that. How do we know that Ezra got it? He was like, because the history predate him. Predate Ezra. So he knew where they got it from. Watch this. Let's go back and read it again. Hold on, let me blow this up. Look, let's go back a little bit right here. I have further to say that there was no Jewish history or book written in my time that could prove my people to have a history extending, that could prove my people to have a history extending over 500 years before my lifetime. The sacred writings all took their present shape in the days of Ezra the scribe. This communication is not from a Jew of the Jews, but is from one who is despised, from one who despised them because they would never submit to be properly ruled and were always in a state of anarchy. So even Ezra, what he's revealing to y'all is even Ezra, they holding on to this Bible that they think come through some Israelites. And as you got it today, he said it was compiled by Ezra. He said it all took their present shape in the days of Ezra. Oaspi admits this too. But this is not Ezra, right? They saying this communication, which would be the Tanakh, is not from a Jew of the Jews. So what does he mean, a Jew of the Jews? The same thing they meant in Revelations 2:9 and 3:9 when they was talking about these people who was going to call themselves Jews, but was really the synagogue of Satan. Because what did Ezra do? Ezra set the basis in a physical earth doctrine that started Christianity on this snowball of murder, blood, and indoctrination that has been on for roughly 3,000 years. Lou Among, you got some shit to pay for, homie. Huh, Christ? Got some things to answer about. He was like, this ain't from a Jew, nigga. But it's from one who despised them. From the enemy. Because they would never submit to be properly ruled and were always in a state of anarchy. So let it be known, if out the mouth of Herod, he's saying, okay, y'all got y'all text, but it was put together by Ezra. But he ain't even one of you niggas. As a matter of fact, he hated you niggas. So that makes you question the intent of the God and the book bringer. I mean, we would have to start looking at the results of what the book produced, right? They were bigoted on all points, and it was their bigotry that destroyed them as a nation. My name was Agrippa Herodias the Younger. I was king of Judea. Woo. Man, hold on. We're going to let it simmer on that for a second. We're going to throw some music on real quick, and I'll be right back. All right, right back at it like we left something. You dig what I'm talking about? So we just got done reading the spiritual account of one emperor of the Flavian dynasty, Vespasian, and one of Herod Agrippa II of the Herodian dynasty, preceding the Flavians. This is some heavy stuff. You dig what I'm talking about? This is some heavy stuff, man. You know what I mean? As always, we not trying to force nobody into believe in nothing. You dig what I'm talking about? This is some real heavy stuff. And as always, we not trying to make nobody believe nothing, but we find this. It's amazing information, and we lay what's objective and subjective against what can be proven through historical and data and empirical data, and then lay a little logic on top of that and sprinkle in a whole lot of common sense. You dig what I'm talking about? And make the most logical choice. Hold on, y'all, 1 second. Okay, so right there, we didn't put a hole in Jeebus' head and a hole in Paul's head and a hole in John head. You did what I'm talking about. Dang, John didn't had a terrible time. They didn't cut that guy head off, and then he just got blasted. Shit, we didn't even put Saint Luke, aka Lucian, and Saint Mark, aka Marcian, head on the chopping block. This book is nuts, and I haven't gone through half the stuff because it gives you information like infinitesimal little bits of proof that couldn't have been there unless he's saying it was, because nobody knew these stories. Who's coming back to tell this stuff? You dig what I'm talking about? Except the person who did it. And that's what the book, that's the amazing part of the book, that it is in a way proven spiritual interaction, but this ain't nothing new. This ain't nothing spooky. You dig what I'm talking about? We heard these stories in every religion and in your families forever. We always been the shamans. We always been the priests. You know what I mean? We've always been the Buddhas, the Nagas, the Mayas, the Ari, the Shi. All these same names to explain good people. Faith is. You dig what I'm talking about? And you get to see that oneness in action. You dig what I'm talking about? Because it's not about what you're telling me you're doing, but it's about what you're showing me you do. Dope, man. This is dope. Let's I ain't gonna be on here too much longer. Try to get up out of here by 2. So let's get into some of this information about Herod Agrippa. For the account of Agrippa, Herodes II, we refer to Smith's Greek and Roman biographies. If the communication of Herodes Agrippa the Younger is authentic and true, and see, they question this stuff. This is what I like about that. Yes. Then have we positive proof that Agrippa was a that Apollonius of Tyana was the Saint Paul or the Apostle Paul of the so-called Christian scriptures. And the true nature of the so-called New Testament is clearly and certainly known. We do not believe that any untruthful spirit, however bent on deceiving, could invent a story so consistent with so many and widely variant historical facts. We therefore conclude that the whole communication came from the controlling spirit intelligence of him who was known as Agrippa Herodes II. The only other question that remains to be determined is the substantial truthfulness of the communication. Let me blow that up, get this out the way. That Agrippa lived, as he says, during the great triumphs and renowned career of Apollonius of Tyana is very certain, and that he was thoroughly acquainted with the distinguished reformatory labors of Apollonius is equally certain. Therefore, when as a spirit he comes back and testifies that Apollonius, under the name of Paulinus or Paulianus, was twice brought before him on the complaint of the Jews and was twice acquitted by him, he states what we have every just reason to believe was the fact. Agrippa was king from AD 48 until the conquest of Jerusalem and the dispersion of the Jews, AD 70. It was during that time that Apollonius was brought before him, as he states. Hold on a second. The complaint in the first instance was that he was disturbing the peace of the country, which disturbance arose from showing the people that he knew more about the Jewish religion than the Jewish priests knew themselves. As that was no offense under the law, Agrippa discharged him. The charge in the second instance was that Apollonius was disturbing the country by advancing ideas that were derogatory to the Jewish Jehovah. But on this charge too, he was acquitted. Why? Because, as the Spirit tells us, he, Apollonius, was a disciple of the great Jewish philosopher Gamaliel, and an initiate of his school, and was thus enabled to confound and defeat his Jewish accusers. This was, as the Spirit states, about 67 or 68 AD. At the time, Apollonius must have been in his 65th or 66th year. The Spirit states that Apollonius was undoubtedly St. Paul of the present Christian religion, and calls attention to the fact that epistles attributed to the latter were a work of a person thoroughly conversant with the Greek language and literature, and not of a Jew at all. Oh, this is undoubtedly the fact, and because it is the fact, Christian writers have labored so hard to break the force of it. Now, in order to show our readers the positive identity of the Christian Saint Paul and the Apollonius, the Cappadocian sage and savior, as he was called by his followers, we refer our readers to the account of the trial of the Apostle Paul before Agrippa. Oh Lord! Let's see what this is about to get heavy. You dig what I'm talking about? I hope y'all got your popcorn, you know what I mean, popped up, because this about to get heavy. As to the version of the trial of Apollonius before King Agrippa, as set forth in the Acts of the Apostles, by what person or when written, the writer did not dare to disclose. It is a well-known fact that this fictitious book was not written until after all the other books of the New Testament, as it is called, were written. and that it was written to explain the connection between the so-called Christian Gospels and the Pauline epistles. Ooh. Everything about that account of the accusation of Paul by the Jews, his defense, and of his being sent to Rome shows that it was a concocted affair to get away from the fact that it was Apollonius of Tyana who created such an excitement among the Jews and who was the real author of the Pauline epistles. Oh my. So knife, stick yourself, Paul. This trial about which Christians make such ado is nowhere mentioned in the Josephus histories. Facts. Which shows one of two things. Either that it was considered by Josephus as a matter of too little account to be worthy of mention, or the mention of it has been destroyed. That neither Apollonius nor Paul, who are said to have figured so prominently at that epoch or at that time, should be mentioned by Josephus or any writer of that time in any connection whatsoever, would show that there was some great reason for the studied silence. Apollonius was certainly in Judea while the Jewish war was in progress. And there made acquaintance of Vespasian, whose prophet and seer he became. It was just before the breaking out of the war that the trial of Agrippa took place. Most probably not in AD 60, as has been supposed, but in AD 67 or 68, as the Spirit states. It was no doubt this accusation of Apollonius before Agrippa and his discharge that constitutes the whole groundwork for the fabulous account of the same occurrence in the Acts of the Apostles bag drop. This is recorded here. We can't deny what these people are saying. This is the proven story about the so-called Paul, who they call Paulinius. Young Apollonius of Tyana. Dang. This heavy. It was most natural that a Greek such as Apollonius who was a remarkable medium and who created an uproar wherever he went on account of the wonderful spirit manifestations which took place through him or in his presence, should have aroused the deadly enmity of the Jewish priests. But it was just unnatural that any Jew, and especially any Pharisee, should have caused such a commotion and caused so long a detention in custody as more than 2 years. Besides, the writer of Acts, inadvertently, no doubt, says that one of the charges brought against the accused by the Jews was that he was a ringleader of the sect of Nazarenes. Let me see. Philosophers, let's take a look at this. Dig this. The sage, right here, the sage caused somewhat of a religious revival in the city, at least until this dramatic intervention of Demetrius at the bath. Tigellinus, the Praetorian prefect, immediately exiled Demetrius, who went to live in Athens. Then he arrested Apollonius on a charge of impiety against Nero. A fatal plague was prevalent in the city, and Nero himself was suffering from a swollen larynx. Apollonius had denounced the populace for its folly in supplicating the gods on Nero's behalf. However, through deft retort and a subtle piece of magic, Apollonius succeeded in gaining his unconditional release. Nevertheless, when Nero soon afterwards prohibited the teaching of philosophy in public and set out for Greece, Apollonius too left for Rome to continue his travels. So they admitting about this so-called court scene too, where he talked himself up out of the accusation made before Herod. Beside the right, they said he was a ringleader of sect of the Nazarenes. This charge could apply to no Jew of the sect of the Pharisees, as it is claimed that Paul was. It did, however, apply especially to Apollonius, who was one of those persons from whom the Jews, in derision, called Nazarites, who about that time assumed the designation of Essenes. Let it drop. Let it burn. Let it burn. Gotta let it burn. That is, listen, it's over. Besides, it is the very certain that Apollonius, as a Nazarite or a Essene, proving, I keep telling y'all, two different things. A Nazarite is a sect of the Essene. The Nazarites and the Essenes are Israelites. Following me? Neither a Nazarite nor an Essene or a Nazarite, so not an Israelite, a Nazarite, or an Essene, ever was a Jew. Let that sink in. Let it sink. Let it burn, let it burn, gotta let it burn. Ooh, what you talking about, Cosma? Believed. Besides, it is very certain that Apollonius, as a Nazarite or Essene, believed in the resurrection of the dead. Indeed, however, critically, the statement of that spirit of Agrippa is compared with the account of this occurrence in Acts. The fact will become the more clear that Apollonius, and not Christian St. Paul, was the individual to which the account in Acts relates. The Spirit then tells us that the last time he met Apollonius was in the camp of Titus before Jerusalem around 70 AD, where he saw such spiritual manifestations take place in his presence, as Josephus relates as having occurred through Eleazar the Jew. The part of Josephus's writings referred to by the Spirit is to be found in Antiquities of the Jews, book number 8, chapter 2, section 5. What the Spirit of Agrippa says as to the antiquity of the sacred books of the Jews is certainly substantially correct. That's proof. We can just Google that. When was the Tanakh written? I showed you not only when it was written, 450, but when it was compiled, 496. Whether none of them were earlier than Ezra the scribe, we do not know and have no time to ascertain. Funny, Owaspy comes out right after this, or he would have had this information. He would have known that none of these dudes, except Moses, except Abram, predate Ezra. You dig what I'm talking about? He 250, 300 years before Jebus. I'm talking about real Yeshua. He almost 500 years before Jebus. Or the invented life of Jesus. Well, when Jesus' story was actually written was in 326. So he really about 700-800 years behind Ezra. Whether none of them were earlier than Ezra the scribe, we do not know and have no time to ascertain. Owaspy already proved this. We know who wrote the Tanakh. It is Ezra, proven in the book 2nd Ezra 14:21. We have only time and space to give the following facts concerning Ezra the scribe, the Levitican, the Sepharim. We quote from McClintock Strong's Encyclopedia, the Theological Literature article of Ezra. And we're going to leave it right there. We're going to leave it right there. I'm going to go ahead and pick up these little ones, you know what I mean? They about to get up out of school in a minute, you know what I mean? But if you learned a little something, you dig what I'm talking about. Did you learn a little bit about Jesus? Did y'all get a little insight on St. Paul? Did you get a little insight on St. Mark? Luke? Huh? Who Timothy is? Huh? Did you learn where you got your Christos ideology from? And then you can tell Apollyonus is a faithist because he not bound by his doctrine. He going to get the best of everybody doctrine and making a higher doctrine, not talking about God, but talking about the Creator. Same thing we doing today. Can't get us no more Jesus. You know what I mean? Limburger, Mo. Limburger. You did. Hey, but man, we gonna come back. We gonna leave it right here. Antiquety Unveiled. We gonna finish it up with Ezra. Then we gonna drop that heat with Zoroaster. Boy, this thing about to get heavy, man. Let me put my moon boots on, my Etherian goggles. You dig what I'm talking about? My Atavasic gloves. You dig what I'm talking about? I'm about to ski skirt. I'm full up on 1,000 octane. You dig what I'm talking about? I'm pushing out heavy in the Otavan. You dig what I'm talking about? So while we there, I want you to breathe in. Let the light in. Because I'm Cosmine. And I'm
And oh yeah, put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you're feeling up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air, oh yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you feel it up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air, oh
it's that Japheth, that
chow mein, that palpable, that towel mein. Since sunset in the arc of Wayne, my brain moving like Tao Sang. So as above, it's so below. That up and that down thing. This flow is atmospheric. I call that a ground game. See, water is knowledge, so if I'm teaching, you're learning. So how your God make a sun without vortexing and current? See, the pattern is ponic. I'm reaching out for my people. Oh, watch me flow through your speakers. You feel the force of the ether. And when the force gets the equal, I'm taking off like an eagle. Police popped the pastor yesterday for pushing put equal. My DNA is Moshe. Mix that thing with higher water. My spirit rate is OTN. It's just a higher order. Got more light than Kavita. Rap a lot just like Tila. Went from sinner to saint. Shout out my big homie Sealer. Got more torque than a sports car. Got more work than a door star. In the 4 million I make, I'm giving the Dr. Umar. Oh yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you're feeling up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you breathing rarefied air. Oh yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you feel it up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you breathing rarefied air. Oh yeah. Super 7 in my rites and ceremonies. I'm married to Jehovah, holy matrimony. Confucius say, in the words of Caillou, before you hit the tomb, be a bridegroom. Only got one question for Miss Susan B. On how to last Ahu when it's now a Angui. Blame my inspiration, I'm just thinking thoughts. But in the way of God's, we gon' keep it short. Why Jesus wanna kill me, Matthew 10:34. Just a couple questions that I'm needing to know. Oh, watch me flow, it's so potent. Set the vortex in motion. Super 7, I'm floating across the Aegean Ocean. Oh, you a Muslim now, so I guess you making salat. Well, I'm an Israelite, I'ma make him at the Shabbat. Got Moses on the bumper, super slap off in my spaceship photosphere. So I stay lit, peace and light to the faith is so yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you're feeling up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air. Oh yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you feel it up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air. Oh yeah.